One of the biggest uses, you know, we talk about things I consider a little more general, data visualization, talk about examples, talk about insight. When it comes to targeting and personalization, this is when it comes down to how do you go after that customer? How do you make the most and extract value using all this data that we're talking about here? And targeting and personalization is really going to be what moves the needle in that capacity. Just a few years ago, it was a large insight across the internet that in the advertising space, if you had an ad that said, we have the best widget in the world, we have the best widget in the country, that's great. They may have converted about 30% of the time. Advertisers realized that if you added the word of something personal, that increased it by over 200% for the amount of click-throughs they get in the ad. So an example, we have the best tents in Plymouth, Michigan, is a lot stronger than we have the best tents in the world. Or this person is the most highly respected educator in Plymouth, Michigan, has quite a bit more pull than saying this is the highest ranked educator, period. So that's something that companies are recognizing, is using data to align to customers and personalizing their message, whether or not it's an email, whether or not it's in a text, whether or not it's in a business intelligence dashboard, when it's someone logs in. It makes a world of difference for people to feel like they're being personalized and targeted to versus just another person without a name and without a number. So an example of this is something that I've had quite a bit of experience in as well, comes down to a lot of companies aren't familiar with how laser focused you can target these days when it comes to advertising. And I'm going to focus on a couple mediums here when it comes down to both Google advertising and Facebook advertising. These days, you can have, we looked at this exact example on one of our clients just a week ago. We had a 34-year-old male. He spent 2 weeks of purchase history over Amazon. He spent it over 2 other large site mediums. He visited the same 2 sites 17 different times. He had 3 kids. We had his the kind of credit cards that he likes to use without actual numbers. We had all of his purchase history, and we ran a generation software that gave us 15 different ways to target him. We tried the software, we targeted him, and our click-through rate was 2 to 3 times that a normal person as a whole. So the important thing for companies here is to realize you can target when people are a bit intimidated to get into advertising because you might have tried a billboard ad in the past, you might have tried something. These days, if you're a B2B customer, you can go on LinkedIn and you can literally say, I only want this message to show to this person with this name in their title, in this location, with this much activity so far in the last 2 weeks. On Google, you can say, I only want this to go to mothers of 4 who wrote in a forum in the last 2 weeks. I don't want it to go to anyone who visited to these 4 sites because these are a competitor. And I only want it to show up Tuesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. and I want to limit only $10 a day on it. I mean, we talk about these extreme examples. These are all very feasible, very actionable for companies, particularly on the marketing end, to get more creative and understand to do nothing more but come up with a list of, this is my dream customer. This is my ideal dream customer. Pass it along, work with the right company, and figure out how do we get in front of them. Because that is an obstacle that has essentially been solved these days through all these different advertising mediums using the bajillions of bytes of data that we've all been generating.